You like the Stanley Cup, right? Actually, I had a wonderful conversation with Matthew about that. He told me all about it. Very impressive. That's going to be a heirloom.
Welcome to CenturyLink conferencing. Please enter your passcode followed by the pound or hash keys and please hold while I confirm your passcode. 0 is not a passcode that I can confirm. Please try entering your passcode again, followed by the pound or hash key. Is not a passcode that I can confirm. Please try entering your passcode again. Welcome to CenturyLink conferencing. Please enter your passcode followed by the pound or hash key, and I'll connect you. It's not a passcode that I can confirm. Please try entering your passcode again, followed by the pound or hash key. Welcome to CenturyLink conferencing. Please enter your passcode followed by the pound or hash key, and I'll connect you. It's not a passcode that I can confirm. Please try entering your passcode again, followed by the pound or hash key.
Go into this little elevator booth. There's a machine that say your ticket, right? So I'm and there's this older woman with a lot of we try to get up to it, and I told her, I said, well, I gotta go all the way to the top of the floor, all the way to the top. The car was too far. This was awesome. Okay, now I'm just gonna go down. I was quite frightened of this. That's all right. She comes up to my car. Here, let me help you. She came all the way down to meet me. I know. You just know, you never know how people are going to. I mean, it was all on that. It was just like, you didn't need someone there. Make sure that I was there when she took her ticket. It's real good.
Welcome to CenturyLink conferencing. Please enter your passcode followed by the Please hold while I confirm your passcode. Thank you. Your passcode is confirmed. When you hear the tone, you will be the first person to join the meeting. The line will be silent until another person joins.
Good morning, please dial in, please. Folks, we're waiting for one more difference.
All right, good morning, everyone. We will now gavel this meeting to order, the quarterly meeting of the Tennessee Board of Regents. Welcome all. We will call the roll momentarily, but we have established, thank you, Carlos. I heard the hotel parking was a challenge.
It really was.
Okay. Okay. Oh, but thank you for making it. We have now established a quorum. We may have another member or two joining by phone here momentarily as well. As everyone knows, this has been an incredibly busy week for the Tennessee Board of Regents and a really exciting week. And last night, our first SOAR Awards was a really special occasion on so many levels. We've had a day of the competition and judging, and Regent Hatch had the privilege to be part of that. Tell us about your experience judging the faculty.
We judged 3 TCAT faculty members and 3 community college faculty members, and I will tell you that any of them would have been a fabulous winner. In fact, the young lady that won from the cosmetology program, when she walked in the door and started talking, we went, wow, what a great story. She, you know, the way she told her story and all was really terrific. So it was a great fun time. I'm looking forward to doing it again next year.
Good. No, and I think from everybody we met last night, what you just said, the 6 finalists in each category,
Right.
Everyone is a winner. And I think I saw James Fry here this morning with us. Speaking of winners, what a great job you did. Thank you very much. And to Bill Seymour, I cannot believe you didn't bring that cup with you this morning. Okay. We're very proud for Cleveland State, and please let everybody back at home know when you return to campus with that beautiful trophy. So he may just decide to keep it for a year or two. Well
It
done.
could happen.
Well done. Our SOAR finalists, once again, have had a couple of intense days, I know, but hopefully they had some entertainment and time to enjoy each other as well. Our day on the Hill, I know, went well, and we'll hear more about that in a little bit, so that our folks could spend time with our state legislators. The honors lunch yesterday was terrific, and combining PTK and the National Technical Honor Society was great. So we really had a chance to see that depth and breadth of experience in those two great organizations. And Chancellor, you and the team did really well by us last night. For that inaugural event, it was incredible. So, and I know you want to talk about this again in a few minutes, but just our kudos and thanks. Danny, did you want to say something?
It was just wonderful. I know that you had high hopes, and I hope you're pleased, because we were so excited to see it and to get to spend time with all of you. That
Yeah.
was really special, is to have some what I would consider to be downtime, and thank you for having that great idea, and for those that made it happen.
Exactly, which we know it wasn't much downtime for them, right?
No.
So-
They're going, when are y'all leaving?
Exactly. So to Kim McCormick and Chris Perkins and just the whole team, it was really an amazing night. And I would be remiss if I did not say once again just what an honor it was to receive the volunteer award. That was pretty special. So thank you. I love you guys, and this has been a great ride. So thank you for everything. Thank you. Don't make me cry again. Let's keep going this morning. But no, to everybody, just very well done. I want to recognize a new VIP in our midst, and we are so honored to have her join our board, and that's Commissioner Penny Schwinn, who has been on the job now 60 days or so?
6.5 weeks.
6.5 weeks. Okay, very good. Came to us from Texas. There's always that special Tennessee-Texas connection, and I think before that was in Delaware. But what a distinguished record of service you bring to our Department of Education. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, Penny.
Okay. Yeah, so I think you did a pretty good job. So I'm born and raised proud Sacramentan, from Sacramento, California, top of the breadbasket in California. But my mom was a teacher for 37 years. My dad's a police officer. But I come from a family of teachers. So my husband's in education, as is my sister and brother-in-law. So that's kind of the family business. And it's just been so privileged and grateful to be able to serve in communities where I'm called to go. So just could not be more thrilled to be in Tennessee. My girls are here now, and that's the most important part when you're with your kids. So I've got 1 out of 1 million public school students that I am here to serve, and so each of those are as important as mine. So it's just, I'm very, very grateful. So thank you for that.
Very well put. Tell us, because obviously one thing we always we want to strengthen is our own ties to K through 12 for all the critical reasons that we know. But give us any general observations in your first 6.5 weeks here.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. One of the areas where I've been trying to focus is being in classrooms as much as possible. I'll actually be at a high school today and do, my 10th student roundtable. So I've been able to speak to over 100 students, 125 classrooms in the first 6 weeks, in about 25 districts. So one of the things that I'm hearing directly from our students is that they are looking for very explicit and intentional instruction about how their coursework in middle school and high school directly connects to what they want to do after. And so a lot of what we're hearing is we understand that we quote unquote have to take a class, but I don't know as a student why, if I want to be an astrophysicist, which is what the last student I talked to said that he wanted to be, he said, then why do I have to take 4 years of English language arts? I don't quite understand. And so how can we be very intentional in explaining the connections between all of the courses that are required and be really thoughtful about making sure that our students understand why they have to take the class, why it will benefit them regardless of where they're going into, and then also thinking about how we can be more creative and innovative in the K through 12 space to ensure that we are preparing our students for effective career exploration and that they can articulate the pathway that they would like to go on for whatever it is that they want to do after high school. So that's been, I think, a very compelling set of comments that we've heard directly from our middle and high school students in each of the grand divisions.
Very good, thank you. Thank you for getting out there and rolling up your sleeves.
The best part.
And thanks to Governor Lee for having the vision to recruit you.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
we welcome you.
Thank you.
We'll help you get settled in any way. And don't be a
Thank you.
stranger. Thank you.
Thank you
It's
very
great
much.
to meet you. Thank you, Commissioner. We also have two of our own who are still new-ish to us, and that's Dr. Bethany Flora, from the president of Northeast State. There she is. Welcome officially. And you've been on the ground, what, since the 1st of January or so?
10 weeks.
Excellent, excellent. So not a stranger to our system, came to us from ETSU, so welcome. Thank you. And Kelly Cheney, TCAT Knoxville. There she is. Good morning. Now, Kelly's been on the job since November 13th, so by this point in time, she's an old pro. Came to us from the Kentucky system, and we're delighted to have her in Knoxville. This is her first TBR meeting, so I wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to say hello. With that, I think that completes our introductions, and I will ask our secretary, Sanja Mason, to call the roll.
Thank you. Governor Lee. Regent Apple.
Here.
Regent Burdine.
Here.
Regent Duckett. Regent Green. Regent Griscom. Regent Hatch.
Here.
Commissioner Hatcher. Regent Kraus. Regent Pepper.
Here.
Regent Prescott.
Here.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Here.
Regent Roman.
Here.
Commissioner Swin.
Here.
Regent Shockey. Regent Simmons.
Here.
Regent Varlin.
Here.
Regent White.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Chancellor reminded me that Regent Kraus is not with us this morning. He is on state business in Washington for a meeting at the White House, possibly even with the president today on higher education. So we'll stand by to hear more. But once again, Tennessee is in the spotlight, so that's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
Good morning, who's joined the call, please? Thank you, Regent Duckett. Just call the roll and I'll make sure you're marked present.
Good morning, Regent Duckett. Thank you. We will now pick up here on our regular order of business, and that begins with the approval of our minutes from our December 13 meeting. Do you have any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, a motion to approve? Thank you, Regent Apple. Second, Regent Prescott. Thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Chancellor, we will turn to your interim action report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The interim action report was included in the material sent to all board members prior to our meeting today. This report constitutes a record of business transacted by the Office of the Chancellor since the previous quarterly meeting of the board. Madam Chair, pending any questions, I recommend the board's approval of the report of interim action.
Any questions for the Chancellor? If not, a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Regent Burdine. A second, please. Thank you, Regent White. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. We now have two committee reports that I'd like to take together with everyone's approval. We have minutes from our special called meeting of the Finance Committee on February 5th, and then on March 5, our Audit Committee meeting. If we could combine those, we'll entertain a motion to approve both sets of minutes. Thank you, Regent Prescott. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Burdine. So any comments or discussion? If not, this once again is a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Chancellor Tidings has several items here from our report from the Chancellor this morning.
Again, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to talk about SOAR one more time, because it was a great event for the colleges, for the system last night, and I'm so proud of the work that everyone has put into this. Our philanthropy awards, again, we'd like to recognize that AT&T and Kathy Jo Brown Hayden, and our Volunteer of the Year award, our own chair, Emily Reynolds. There are individuals that did make this happen. While I had a kernel of an idea, they took that idea and they turned it into reality. I'm going to read the names of all of the individuals that were on this committee, and I'd like for them to stand if they are in the room today. First of all, it was headed by Dr. Kim McCormick, Mr. Chris Perkins, Mr. Andrew Dollar, Rick Locker, Matthew Gann, Virginia Moreland, Jennifer Thompson, Kim Balver, Casati, Joel Scott, Karen Fair, Dr. Heidi Lemming, Heather Brown, Evelyn Hadley, Kristen Veloff, Joy Rich, and Michael Tinsley. Please give them a huge round. And I really do have to tell you that Matthew Gann and Chris Perkins, they deserve to go home after this board meeting today and not come back till Monday, because the two of them have really carried the burden of all of this on their shoulders, and they have done a yeoman's job. They took it and really ran with it and turned it into what you saw last night. So we are most grateful to both of you. There were two people on the board that really helped pull the weight on getting our sponsors to the table last night, and that was Chairman Reynolds and Danny Varlin. I'd like you to give them one more round of applause, because we would not have had the funding to give those big checks that we gave out last night had it not been for these two ladies. They truly did carry that.
I'm waiting for mine, by the way.
Oh, goodness. These ladies know how to raise money. They really do. People do not turn them down when they go to their door, and so we are so grateful that they are on our team. We do have with us today James Fry from Chattanooga State, who we recognized. I think we're going to put a slide up just showing the other winners from last night: Chris Edmonds, Rebecca Russell, Dawn Barney, John Adcock, and Garaja Shindy. We are so proud of each and every one of you and what you accomplished. And Regent Hatch is right. Any one of the individuals that were on that stage last night could have taken the prize home. The interviews made the difference, and we are so proud of all of the individuals that competed. We are looking forward to it being even a bigger and better event next year. So thanks to all of you and all the colleges and presidents that participated. Cleveland State, we are very proud of you for winning College of the Year. And you can win it again next year. Again, it's based on the metrics, so you might have it back in your midst again. I'd like to go into the rest of the report now. I do have one sad note that I need to bring to you, and that is the resignation of one of our presidents, Dr. John Mandrell. And John, if you would please stand and let us at least thank you for what you have done for us here while you've been with us. Dr. Mandrell did notify me that his resignation will be effective May 20th. He is doing that because of some family concerns that are back home in Illinois, which we completely understand. Don't want to let him go, but family comes first, so we support his decision. Dr. Carol Puryear has agreed to be our interim president again of TCAT Murfreesboro effective May 20th. And Dr. Puryear, I know you're in the room. Would you please stand? Dr. Carroll agreed to do this because of her great skill sets with our TCATs. We know that she can do this in her sleep, but as I've jokingly said, it's also because she had a half-filled box of cards with interim president already on it, so we just thought it was appropriate to let her keep going. Carol does whatever Carol is asked to do in this system, and we are most grateful to you, so thank you. I also would like to show you a map of our distressed counties that we have within the state. What I have here for you, you have this in your packet, but I wanted you to be aware of the counties in which we are currently not operating and have no presence of either a TCAT or a community college. You see that it is very few out of the distressed counties that we have, but I wanted you to be aware that we will be paying special attention to these counties, and we are currently already working with THEC, with the Department of Labor, with ECD, and with the governor's office on how we can serve these counties. So just so you have a visual of that and everybody understands where we are. One other opportunity that the governor's office has been talking about is the incarcerated Tennesseans. You also have in your materials today a report regarding opportunities for our community colleges and TCATs to educate some of the Tennesseans in our prison population. There are over 23,000 people currently incarcerated in Tennessee state and federal prisons. 3 TBR colleges have partnerships with state and federal facilities to date. That is Nashville State and Dyersburg State at state facilities and Southwest Tennessee at the Memphis Federal Facility. Several TCATs have previously partnered with or are currently setting up partnerships with state and county correctional facilities for reentry programs. Those are Covington, Jackson, Murfreesboro, Oneida, Paris, Pulaski, and Ripley. There is a great potential for our colleges to grow in this area, and we'll keep you updated on the progress we make as we continue to work with the governor's office on this initiative. I'd also like to give you just a quick update on Achieving the Dream, because this has become a large conversation for all of our colleges, all 13 of our community colleges within the system. And I'd once again like to recognize the great work of Wendy Thompson. Is Wendy in the room today? Wendy, if you'd stand and be recognized, and let's thank you for what you did taking the large group out to Achieving the Dream. Wendy really has picked this project up and run with it. She's done some great work in tying everybody in together in our community colleges. Our Achieving the Dream membership is an incredible opportunity for the colleges. She is going to give you a much more detailed briefing on this in June. But at this point, I'd like to note a few things. First of all, that Rome State was one of only 6 community colleges to earn the ATD Network Leader College status. This is a designation awarded to institutions that have shown measurable progress in areas critical to improving success for community college students. Rome State was noted for not only increasing their 3-year graduation rate by 8 percentage points, but also reducing its equity gaps for Black and Hispanic students and Pell recipients in the areas of Gateway Math and English, and for Hispanic and Pell recipients for fall-to-fall persistence. This transformation required significant changes to long-standing policies and practices for remedial education, onboarding of entering students, academic achievement, and scheduling. Many of these changes were especially challenging to bring to scale at an institution with 9 campuses in 2 time zones. However, results have been very transformative. Their strategies were developed through engagement of cross-functional teams of faculty and staff with strong support from the leadership. Would Chris Whaley please stand and let us thank you for that? And then just to give you one more taste of the convention, I'd like to run for you now a video. This is a Northeast State student, Samantha Parrish, who was recognized as a Dream Scholar. Samantha is a pre-dental hygiene major working toward an AS degree at Northeast State Community College. She told her story before an audience of over 1,500 conference attendees. This is Samantha in her own words describing what Achieving the Dream and Northeast State Community mean to her.
I am from Shut Up Samantha and Cold Calloused Hands. I am from Daddy's stone-faced disappointment and his mocking laughter. I am from shadows cast by an older sister and an all-American brother. I am from soup, beans, and cornbread, and girls can only be wives, mothers, or school teachers. I am from It's Too Hard for You, and You'll Never Be Enough. I am from tarnished metal of melted brown powder from the poisoned veins from who I vowed to love. I am from the throbbing ache of brokenness and the paralyzing silence of his voicemail. I am from loneliness of rehabs and hours of counseling, and now a 6-month sober marriage. I am from Tom and Kim Parrish his parents who held us together. I am from Reconciliation Ministry, and hands held high, lifting us up, praising his name. I am from Northeast State Community College and the TRIO Student Support Services, who showed me the warrior inside of me. I am from 5-hour study groups and late-night papers and an International Honor Society. I am from the warm salt waters of the Adriatic Sea in Italy and the Tensa Study Abroad program. I am from the Help Me and the Teach Me from fellow students from the multiple mentor programs. I am from hours of transfer preparation and the congratulations you're accepted. I am from hours of training classes and applications to specific programs. I am from the longing to help those less fortunate than myself, from the broken tooth to the amputation of a limb. I am from the longing to give to those who gave me, from my patients to those who helped me along the way. I am from hurt and neglect. I am from love and happiness. I am from the highs and the lows and everything in between. I am from the you can't, but I did.
She says it better than any of us could. Those are the dreams that we are all working to achieve. Dr. Flora, would you please stand and let us thank you for sending this student our direction? Thank you. I have one more video I want to play for you. You've all seen that we started talking about career in a year several months ago. We put this seed and this kernel in the governor's hands. He has mentioned it several times. I don't know if you've noticed in his talks. But over the next year, we are going to be promoting all of the programs in our system that you can complete within a year. We understand that many of our students, when they begin their journey, if you say 2 years or 3 years to them, that sounds daunting. If you say you can do this in a year, we can get them started. And so Matthew and his dream team have come up with this great commercial that we have begun running day before yesterday. I think it kicked off. I want to play it for you today so that you can see what we have out there. This is not on TV. It is on all the other things that other people watch. Matthew would have to give you that list and the radio. So if y'all would please cue that up.
In a year or less, you could launch a new career. A career that offers a new beginning and a plan for the future. A career that provides security and creates stability. A career that brings adventure and a new way forward. At Tennessee's community and technical colleges, you can start your new career in a year or less, and you can likely attend tuition free.
Short, sweet, and to the point. Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Swin, anything in that spot that resonates, particularly given kind of what you've seen and heard these last few weeks?
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about that. I think it's super short, which is great. We've looked a lot at especially our recent graduates and their attention span around wanting to watch videos in that kind of 90-second to 3-minute window. But I think a lot of what we're hearing about is the pressure between I need to get a job right now, any job, and what does that mean to be able to take those steps towards a career moving forward. I think this is something that will be really manageable, and it showed professions that a lot of our students are talking about and seem accessible. So I thought that was great.
Excellent. Very good. No, that's good. Thank you. Good report. Lots going on. So, and to the Samantha and the warrior within her. Oh my goodness, that was pretty remarkable. So thank you for sharing that very much. Our next item is unfinished business, but we do not have anything that falls into that category, so we'll move directly on to our consent agenda. Once again, we have 2 items under that. We went through these policy revisions at our committee chairs meeting earlier this month, but if there is any item that you would like to pull out for further discussion, now is the time to say so. If there are no particular concerns, we will take both items 1 and 2 in that consent agenda and entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Danny. Second? Oh, thank you, Bill. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, this requires a voice vote, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And thank you to Mary Moody and to everyone who's played a part in these continuing policy revisions. It's a lot of work, but much appreciated to bring us up to date and up to speed. We remain in new business, but we turn to our informational reporting, kind of building on the Chancellor's report. We will begin with Vice Chancellor Gibbs and an overview of the Governor's budget recommendations for TBR.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The first thing that I want to draw your attention to is really the current status of the proposed state budget. Of course, as you're aware, with the change in administration, that really kind of delayed the start of the process this year by a little over a month. So the state budget was introduced on March 4th, 2019. Again, this normally occurs near the end of January. TBR has been busy conducting budget hearings. We've appeared before the House Education Committee on March 19th and yesterday before the Senate Education Committee. And we have one more to go on Monday before the House Finance, Ways and Means Committee. The appropriation bill amendment cutoff date has not been set yet. We expect that to occur sometime probably in mid-April. And we will be looking toward that. The next thing that I want to draw your attention to is the recommended changes in TBR state appropriations for fiscal year 2019-20. And here we will look at this really kind of by sector. First, we'll look at the community colleges. The outcomes and operating adjustment for the community colleges that's recommended in the budget is $14.1 million. And again, this is the community college portion of the overall $56 million recommendation for higher education across the state. The next item that we will look at there is the formula adjustment for the community colleges. And if you recall, really the first step in the funding formula process is a redistribution of existing state appropriations across the state. This includes community colleges, LGIs, the University of Tennessee. In other words, if there were no new money to come into our system, there's still a redistribution of existing appropriations based on the results of the outcome funding formula. And that's what this column represents. And again, the community colleges would stand to gain $2.8 million in that process for a total increase of $16.9 million. And again, that's monies that can be used for operating the institutions. It also includes the state's portion of the 2% salary policy that was in the governor's budget. For the TCATs, the results of the outcome formula would yield them $3.6 million. Again, that's their portion of the $56 million that was included in the governor's budget. Through the redistribution process this year, they will decline $555,000 there, but they'll also receive $426,000 for the governor's correctional education investment initiative, bringing their total increase to $3.5 million. For the central office, we will receive $343,000. Again, that's to fund the state salary increase policy there. We are also recommended to receive about $2.45 million for TBR administrative support. And really, this is made up of two items. The first item is for $1.5 million. And this is actually money we've been receiving for the last several years on a non-recurring basis. So it was included in the budget on a non-recurring basis. And this was primarily to assist our funding of the facility development office that we have that supports our campuses with capital outlay projects, capital maintenance projects, a lot of architects, engineers, et cetera. And this money was to assist their operations. We've requested that may be made on a recurring basis, and so it was included as such in the governor's recommendation. The second part is for $945,000. And if you'll recall, when the LGIs were with us, they each contributed toward the financial operations of the Board of Regents for the services that they received. And of course, when they left, that left a hole in our revenue stream. And we have requested, and it is included in the governor's budget, $945,000 to help fill that gap. So that brings our recurring items to $2.7 million. In the non-recurring column is $2 million, and this is for the safety funding. Again, this is the third and final year of the safety funding. We've received $2 million each year. The unique thing this year is it was included as unrestricted state appropriations, where the previous 2 years it was included on the capital line. So this gives us a little bit more flexibility in how we can use the funding this year. Again, the big news I think out of this is that THEC's recommendation of $56 million to fully fund the formula was included in the governor's budget. And anytime that happens, that's a good day for higher education. The next slide will show you, again, I think in a bar chart format and by sector, the funding levels that we just discussed. The blue is the current funding levels, and the red is the incremental change in funding recommended. The next slide will show you basically the same information, except here it's by institution. With the exception of the TCATs, and they're still shown in the aggregate here, again, with the blue being existing and the red being the incremental change recommended in the budget. The next chart will actually show you the individual dollar amounts that are behind the charts. And I probably want to draw your attention really to three columns. Again, the formula adjustment column, we just described what that represented. I think if you will look, Motlow State gains $1.5 million in that redistribution process. And again, this is the results of their performance. And again, Volunteer State at $1.3 million. Those were both big gainers in the redistribution process. And again, that would overall net them, about $2.3 million for Motlow and about $2.5 million for Vol State. When you combine that with the outcomes column that you see as well, and again, that's each individual school's portion of the $56 million that was included in the governor's budget. For the TCATs, we're still showing that in aggregate. We're working on a distribution for each of the individual institutions, but for the TCATs as a whole, you can see that through the formula readjustment process, they had the decline this year of about $555,000. But when you combine that with their portion of $56 million, they still would gain over $3 million in new revenue this year. Now we'll look at the capital outlay and maintenance recommendations. In capital maintenance this year, what was included in the governor's budget recommendation was $19.7 million for our institutions, and this would fund 26 projects. With regard to capital outlay, we had one project that was recommended, and it's listed in the governor's budget as the TCAT Athens and Cleveland Higher Education Center project, but we know that as the McMinn Higher Education Center, and I think they'll be changing the name of that in the governor's budget. This project is in excess of 50,000 square feet, and it's a multi-tenant facility that will house TCAT Athens, Cleveland State, the UT Extension Center, and the adult education programs. Okay, this slide will actually show you the details of the $19.7 million in capital maintenance projects. And again, you can look at these. I mean, there's roof replacements, there's HVACs. I mean, this is what really keeps our campus going. I don't think, we can emphasize enough the importance of receiving this capital maintenance money. We've been fortunate now for several years in a row to receive a substantial investment in capital maintenance. This might not be quite as beautiful as a new building, but again, it's what keeps our existing buildings going, and we're much appreciative of that. The upcoming budget events, normally, again, I would have dates with these, but the dates just aren't ready yet. But we'll be looking forward to the administration's budget amendment, and then next would be action by the Senate and House Finance Committees. and then action by the full House and Senate transmitted onto the governor for his action. So, Madam Chair, that concludes my summary of the state budget as it impacts Tennessee Board of Regents.
Any questions or comments for Vice Chancellor Gibbs, or anything to add, Chancellor?
I appreciate all of the hard work that's gone into this budget proposal. The money that we have in now a recurring basis for the system office was a 2-year project to get that in there. So we are that was a win for us. Danny and I danced quite giddily when we saw that was in there. So thank you.
Well done. And we're excited about the McMinn County opportunity. It's going to be a great facility. So well done. We'll proceed to our external affairs update, and Vice Chancellor McCormick is coming to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to reiterate what Chancellor said earlier about the external affairs staff. These are amazing people. They're an eclectic group. They advocate for legislation. They are graphic designers, artists, writers, and somehow they all work beautifully together as a team. Chris Perkins is that get-it-done kind of person. You can give him something and it's just, he's going to make it happen. Matthew is probably the most creative human being I've ever met in my life, and he showed me just a moment ago that last night, or yesterday, he logged over 9 miles in walking just within that DoubleTree, so that was pretty amazing. Kazadi, Joel, Andrew back here, who did a great job helping with the event, are just, they're wonderful people, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to work with them. Kristen Veloff and her team also were working the past 2 days, but they were in the Cordell Hull building in the Capitol doing so. So I can't recognize them this morning because they're still there and the House is in session. So they are just a great team to work with. Nashville State, Dr. Jackson, your team was amazing. The floral arrangements, all of that work, the volunteers, they coordinated. TCAT Dixon, TCAT Nashville, those table arrangements that you saw were made by students and faculty at TCAT Nashville. So they were absolutely beautiful. But I couldn't be happier with what we have seen for the past 2 days. So that being said, I need to start our presentation now with our legislative update. As you know, the General Assembly and the governor are focusing their energy into key areas that we want to be heavily involved in to ensure that we have the best outcomes for our students. And you can see those on the board, that these are the things that we watch, we either advocate for or defend against. These are the issues, at least the primary legislative themes that we've seen this year. In your packets, you will see a current list of bills, and you have 2 different sets. The first set is the set of bills that we feel they're dealt with or they're resolved. They've either been moved to general sub, or they've been taken off notice by the sponsors, or we have worked the particular issues and sponsors have changed their minds in their presentation. There's one I really want to point out, though, and that's House Bill 0228. Senate Bill 0250. As introduced, it removes certain limitations on training centers for emergency medical technician, advanced emergency medical technician courses. As you know, last year this bill passed in a pilot phase for 5 counties in the Northeast. This year the bill was reintroduced to take that training across the entire state in all 95 counties. And it really looked like that bill was going to move as written. I want to tell you all how appreciative I am of our presidents, because these presidents in this room and our others worked as a team. And, you know, Vice Chair Reynolds and Chancellor, you want to see our institutions functioning as a system and as a team, and they did so. And I just want you all to know that they did that. They all called all of their legislators or emailed them or text messaged them, and they got their word out very quickly. Very soon after that, we were informed that the people on the other side of this bill were ready to talk with us. So we went in and met with them, and they agreed to an amendment to create the pilot for them to be able to put 15 training sites across the state. They also agreed to a much tighter reporting of data, and Mary Moody was actually able to help and assist in writing this amendment. So at this point, that's where this bill seems to be going. And this is on the House side. In the Senate, we know that at least it will be held to 15 sites. And we still don't know how it will end, but we know that it will at least, I keep saying that, be 15 sites. So again, that's most of that is from the work of our presidents. Okay. As we move on now to strategic advancement updates, and Chris Perkins is here. If you have questions, I'll ask him to address those at the end. But right now, they are working on advancement services, foundation work, and of course the SOAR awards that we just finished. I will tell you, and again, thanks to Vice Chair Reynolds and Regent Varlin and all of the work of Chris Perkins, they raised a little over $46,000 for this event in a very short, very, very short period of time. So we are very proud of Chris and his team for that. We also will begin our 4-college CMT Empowering Education Tours on Wednesday the 3rd of April at Dyersburg, and we'll move to Jackson State on Thursday, April 4th, and then we will be at Motlow on Tuesday, April 9th, and finish the tour at Pellissippi State on Wednesday, April the 10th. At each tour stop, CMT will award a pair of $500 scholarships to new potential students who attend this event. And I don't know if you all got to meet Rachel and Ellen last night from CMT, but they have been working very well with us, and we are very appreciative of them and their efforts. We'll have our second Advancement Officers Peer Group meeting in June, and we'll hold 3 regional advancement sessions for TCAT presidents in August. Financial reports for each TCAT account in our foundation, they have been going out to the colleges for the past 2 months, and kudos to President Stuart Smith for organizing his TCAT Athens booster group and within about 2 weeks of the meeting, he had donations totaling $25,000. So congratulations to you. TCAT Morristown and President Jerry Young are holding a dinner on April the 11th to help raise money for students who don't qualify for financial aid, or they have other needs to attend college, and the dinner will honor R. Jack Fishman, and over $20,000 has been raised for this event. So congratulations, President Young. And the Haas Foundation will be working with TCAT Memphis for a second installment payment of over $300,000 to help fund the Bartlett campus. So congratulations. And there are all kinds of other things happening in that department as well. Chris is finalizing the foundation board members. He'll have plenty of work, but again, we're going to give him a little bit of a rest, at least until next week. So if you have any questions, Chris is here. Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to marketing and digital strategy. As Chancellor addressed earlier, our key message really, as you saw with Career in a Year, we have an overarching key message for the next couple of years, and that is my career started at a community or technical college. And Career in a Year is one of those components. Alumni success stories and industry partnerships. These are all areas of focus. The main goal is to increase awareness that community and technical colleges are the primary starting points for Tennesseans to launch a career. As Chancellor noted in her budget hearing yesterday, whether a student wishes to enter the workforce quickly as possible or with a technical certificate that can be earned in 12 months or less, or they wish to pursue an associate's degree or even transfer to earn a bachelor's degree or beyond, as many of our students do, our community and technical colleges provide an excellent foundation for successful careers of all types. As you saw, our first complimentary message and campaign is Career in a Year, and that commercial is beautiful. And again, that was done through the leadership of Matthew and his team. One of the other things we want to do, and Commissioner Schwinn, starting in middle school, We want students to be aware that there are programs and opportunities available, really even earlier than middle school, but definitely starting there, to get through one of our 175-plus teaching locations across the state. We want to make sure that we reach back into the K-12 system and let students know that. We expect short-term gains with our campaigns, but our main goal at the system level is to change the long-term narrative about post-secondary education. So that is our update, and again, Matthew is here if you have specific questions for him.
Well, I hear that in the alumni success stories, we may have somebody we know and love featured.
There may be someone sitting in this room up at the table named Joey Hatch. So yes, we do. Okay.
Could you, and I think we've gotten it in the past, but just as a reminder, would you mind sending to all of us the 4 CMT dates again, just in case we want to participate, and should we double back with your office if that's the case?
Yes, I absolutely will, and we would love your participation. We really would.
You're going to Fellowship. Good. Excellent.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Kim?
Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I will simply close by saying you were absolutely correct in giving your team all the credit, but every team needs a leader, and we thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Well done.
Thank you. That completes my report.
To our Executive Vice Chancellor, Russ Deaton, we have some policy and strategy research updates.
Vice Chair Reynolds, Chancellor Tidings, members of the board. Want to first show you a couple of things that are going to be updates from previous topics we've discussed. The last year and a half or so, we have made quite an effort to provide tools for our campuses, for you as board members, for staff, to peer into our institutional data to get a better sense of how our schools are performing, enrollment trends, graduation rate trends, job placement, licensure pass rates, etc. And over those last 18 months or so, the website for the policy and strategy area has introduced several things. You've seen community college profiles, one-pagers that a campus president can hand out to a chamber, for instance, giving a profile of that campus. A community college dashboard that, again, digs into their data very deeply, trends over time, by campus information. And so those tools have built up, and today we're going to bring you a few more tools, all of which are created by the staff. Melissa Hunter on the dashboard, who I think is watching. I don't think is behind me. Is she there? Where is she? Oh, there's Melissa. Melissa, please stand up for a moment. She deserves applause. When the dashboard was when that idea was first floated, I think we all huddled around, and I said, "Does anyone know how to create a dashboard? What does that even mean?" And Melissa raised her hand and said, "I sure do." And from that, everything you have seen and will see flowed from her brain. But one of the big pieces of that was TCAT data. And we have, over the years, struggled sometimes with getting our arms around TCAT data. But Melissa has spent the past 3 or 4 months at least, I think, Melissa, probably more than that, building what you're about to see here, which is the introduction of a TCAT dashboard that, again, is publicly available so that anyone can go on and look into data across schools, across time, across all the metrics we have for those institutions. All of this will go live early next week. The test site now, I'm going to show you and to give you a sense of what the overall site will look like. Again, the community college dashboards are existing on the website now, which again give you the various metrics you can look at across time, across schools. And early next week you'll see this, the TCAT dashboard, which again gives all the data we have at our disposal and puts it in a very easy to read format, a very visually appealing format. Again, with all of the major metrics you'd want to see, job placements, licensure pass rates, enrollments, etc. And to give you a flavor of what this piece will look like, we'll just start with one of the pictures of the dashboard, just general enrollment trends. You can see across time, across campus. You can look at fall term only, year-round. Of course, awards. Again, you can look by campus, by year, and look at both certificates and diplomas. You can track those by campus. the warranty claims, which currently, Chancellor Tidings, of course, we have 0. Many thanks to the campuses, but over time we'll be building this out as well as we graduate folks who are eligible and receive a warranty card. That's the number there on the left, and then we can publicly release the warranty claims and be accountable to you and the public for how those are proceeding. That's on the dashboard as well. Licensure pass rates, major components of what our TCATs do, again, by year, by campus, by subject area, it's on the dashboard. And then other pieces as well. You can look at county location. For instance, Jeff Sisk can look at, of all students at TCAT Jackson, what counties they originate from and get a sense of student enrollment patterns. All that information and more is on the dashboard for the TCATs, again, released early next week. Quickly, second piece. The outcomes formula, which Danny referenced earlier, is a key part of policy at this system and across the state. There is an immense amount of data that the outcomes formula produces. Our schools have 11 outcomes on which they are judged and funded. Those are then weighted, of course, by mission. All that is then tracked against peers, both within and without the system. There's a lot there. That's static currently on the THEC website. They have some wonderful tools, but raw data. Melissa has turned that into an interactive dashboard that allows you to see trends over time, allows you to look at how schools are performing by outcome overall compared to peers. For instance, the first page a user would turn to on this dashboard is what's on the screen now. This is measuring the cumulative financial effect of the formula model since its inception, that baseline year, and measuring percentage change in funding over time, which is the bottom line metric of the formula. You can look at all 13 schools within TBR. You can look at the statewide average for how money might or might not have flowed between sectors. All that is available in this one place. You can isolate data and look at how individual outcomes have changed over time, again, measuring percentage growth by campus in a cumulative fashion. The dashboard also allows you to look at individual metrics in the raw numbers. For instance, as you know, there are 3 populations of keen interest to the model: adults, low income, and academically unprepared students for our system. This allows you to look at the individual data by campus and to look at those trends again over time. One thing, for instance, Anthony Wise will be able to go in and see the early effects of Reconnect in fall 2017. What you're looking at is the adult enrollment over time. And you can see the spike in that enrollment count he had in fall 17. Again, all of this will be available early next week, interactive, publicly available, and we're excited to roll it out. Questions about the dashboard? Anything you'd like to see? Also with that will be individual TCAT profiles. So again, each of the 27 TCATs will have a one-pager with major data, again, to hand to any user, any legislator, any chamber. That'll be available as well.
Yeah, Russ, the only thing I just said to the Chancellor is we may want to think about a little communication plan around this, just to put something out so the media and hopefully the general public will have some idea that this level of detail exists. Because it does really tie back to if I'm looking at Reconnect or Promise or thinking about my next steps, it's a remarkable tool that's there.
We'll do. In fact, if I can talk, there's Rick Locke right there waving his finger. Absolutely, we'll get on that. That's a good point.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, switching, if I may, to here. How's Rachel? Switching over to some data updates. As you know, we have begun to collect 5 semesters worth of data on enrollments and graduates, which allow us to bring to you several updates today, looking at last fall and early looks at spring 19 data. First, spring 19 enrollment data, along with a trend of about the past 8 years or so. As Chancellor Tidings has noted in our budget hearings, we have had the first increase in enrollment from the spring in the last 8 years or so, up 3.7% from spring 18 to spring 19. Obviously, the results of Tennessee Reconnect, about which you'll hear more in a moment. Looking at individual schools, our College of the Year, Cleveland State, led the increase 12.4% spring over spring. Motlow State, also a healthy increase, almost 10%. Again, we're seeing the impacts of Reconnect flow through the data in ways that are quite promising. Moving on to graduation rates, and this is a slide you've seen us show you before. What you're looking at is how a graduation rate from that freshman class builds up over time. So as you move across that x-axis, that is counting a number of semesters. 3 semesters in an academic year, so you can see across time how the graduation rate builds up. This shows you prior cohorts as well. So for instance, that bottom line that you see is the 2010 cohort, and you can see semester by semester how that freshman grad rate has built up over time. The 3-year graduation rate, where that first vertical line is drawn, is the major way graduation rates are measured. You will see that often quoted by us, by THEC, by other external parties. That is the major way we think about graduation rates. However, people don't stop graduating at 3 years. That's why we're now showing that cumulative rate over time. But one thing about this chart too you'll notice is that every year since 2010, those graduation rates are accelerating. That curve is getting steeper. So much so that you'll recall last September we reported the 2015 graduation rate as that number at the top, 23.7%. Getting close to doubling over a 5-year period. That's tremendous progress. The red dashed line is the early look at the 2016 cohort. Those students, of course, have had 2.5 semesters so far. So far, their graduation rate is 18.6% as of December, which, as you can see, is higher than any previous cohort. They're well on their way to having a graduation rate probably pushing 25, 26% by the springtime. Again, probably roughly doubling the rate in about 6 years. Again, quite promising. The fruits of a lot of the labor that have occurred in the TBR system and across the state for the last 10 years are obviously showing in these numbers. Yes, ma'am.
Just so I'm clear, is that only Promise, did you say?
This is the entire first-time, full-time freshman class, about
Okay.
20,000 students, the bulk of whom are Promise students, but not all, of course.
So this isn't other like that other data set where if I went and took a couple of classes, I'm not included in.
Correct, yeah, and this is
Okay.
one of the limitations of the graduation rate, of course. The students you described, Vice Chair, would not ever be captured in a success metric like this. It's
Okay.
one of the limitations of this. So many of our graduates were never even in a first-time freshman cohort to even analyze. So this is a limited look at campus success, but it does measure that particular slice of the population very well, but many students fall outside this.
Thanks.
Moving on to Tennessee Promise. This does get to your question. And again, let me show you some of the historical data here to lead you into the new data. You've seen parts of this slide before. Moving left to right, that 2014 bar shows you, again, of that first-time, full-time freshman class after 5 semesters, who's graduated, who's still enrolled, who has successfully transferred to another school, which we can detect through our data, and who has dropped out, who we don't see anymore. Again, that first bar shows you the 2014 cohort, the last cohort before Promise. And after 5 semesters, we had lost about half of those first-time freshmen, and about, in the red, 14% had graduated. Moving to the second set of bars, that's the first year of Promise. That contains, though, both Promise and non-Promise students. We'll get to that breakdown in a moment. But by 5 semesters, the 2015 cohort had graduated at an 18% clip. So again, an acceleration of the graduation rate. And as of December now, we can look at the 5-semester grad rate for the 2016 cohort. It has moved up again to 20.1%. So again, we're seeing continued acceleration in the graduation rate for our first-time, full-time freshmen. Isolating just the Promise students are the last 2 bars. And again, about 80% or so of the freshman class is on Promise, so this is the bulk of the students. But the Promise student graduation rate has gone from 21.5 to almost 23% over the first 2 years, again, after 5 semesters. So an acceleration of enrollment. You see fewer students have transferred proportionally because they're graduating from their home school, and fewer still enrolled because they've graduated. So again, progress on that front as well.
Madam
Questions
Vice Chair.
about Promise?
I just want to make a comment on this because this is encouraging to us when we look at this and we see these increases, but not to be a Debbie Downer, but I think we have to realize that when you're looking at the community and they're seeing still a graduation rate at 22%, that's nothing that anybody is celebrating. And, you know, I think we need, you know, I've been inside education and outside education. We look at these numbers and we get excited, but I think we have to keep that kind of sober acknowledgement that we still are a long way from where we want to be in terms of our graduation rates. And I applaud the schools. They're doing, you know, we look at this and we're so proud of what's happening, and that's true. We're really proud that these advances are moving along, but we've still got to do a lot better than this.
Amen.
Well, and just as a follow-up question, and I know some of this may be elusive, but what's our ability to go in to that 47, 48% who are still dropping out and do a deep dive on I mean, we know generally speaking what the drivers are, but how much data do we have around why they leave us?
That's limited, I would say. We know the timing of when they left. We know how many credits they might have accumulated when they left. By the way, a non-trivial portion of those dropouts never accumulate an hour with us. They don't last the fall semester, so that's of concern as well. So we know something about the profile of those students when they leave, and this is a bit of a segue into where we're going next, but we also can now look for them in other state data sets. We can look, for instance, have they entered the workforce after they've dropped out? What were their wages pre and post? And did the schooling have any effect whatsoever on their wage outcomes? We have the ability now in the future to perhaps look at what has happened to them in ways that might be enlightening for us. By the way, I think it is the case, and correct me if I'm wrong, those behind me, but the highest promised graduation rate, and this is the theme here, is Cleveland State, 33.2%. So yeah, we could get that engraved on the trophy. Yeah. All right, moving on in the interest of time. So in this, I'm going to ask Dr. Amy Moreland to warm up here now to come up. But again, the last few years we have made a concerted effort to get our arms around TBR data and to provide campuses and the board tools to continue to make the improvements in student success that we have. And the beauty of a governing board is that we can take the research and data capacity we have and turn it into, as we say, actionable information. We can affect change as a governing board and as 40-member colleges that's difficult to do for other think tanks and other entities who don't have management responsibility. So we have made a key point the last 2 years of finding ways where our research interests and the interests of our students intersect with external funding opportunities and the interests of other researchers. We have tried really hard to seek out those opportunities and to increase our own capacity. We've done so by not only building tools that you've seen, but we've also been entrepreneurial. We've been lucky to get 2 recent grants from Lumina Foundation and Overdeck Foundation that have allowed us to stand up a data science capacity, which is basically taking big data, disparate data sources that's hard to peer into and discern insights, and to begin to, again, have that motivate and create actionable information for us. We've been lucky to bring on our first data scientist, Dr. Jason Lee. You may ask him to wave or stand and smile. Dr. Lee, or at least 2 of those, Dr. Lee is coming to us from THEC, where he was one of the senior researchers there, and again is elevating our methodological skill set by being able to take lots of different data sets we have access to and to begin to peer into those for actionable data that we can then connect, though, with what our role is as a governing board and help our campuses improve policy and practice, and that's what's really key to all of this. Over the next couple years, we hope to continue to engage these external partners. Many of these things have led us to our own curiosities about certain data questions that we've always wondered about but never been able to answer. And in a second, Dr. Moreland is going to walk you through some of those partnerships we've begun to establish, how our data science capacity fits within that, and some of the early results we've seen from our increased capacity to do this, particularly around Reconnect especially. And so you're going to see some new data here in a moment. So with that, let me ask Dr. Amy Moreland to come up and walk you through this next section.
Good morning. As Dr. Deaton just mentioned, we've spent the last year thinking about ways for us to answer exactly the kinds of questions that you've asked this morning based on this data. Now that we have all of this information, what do we do with it? And so with that goal in mind, we've been thinking a lot about how to expand our research capacity, where appropriate to engage external philanthropic resources to support that work, and also where appropriate, engage strategically external researchers who can bring expertise to this work. And so this morning we're happy to highlight a few of these partnerships, one of which is directly related to something you've seen this morning. Over the last several years, we've looked a lot at data around Tennessee Promise and the success of those students. But we also want to learn more. And so we have formed a partnership with a national nonprofit research organization named Research for Action. And we're working with them and a group called Penn Ahead, which is a research center housed at the University of Pennsylvania. And we're really looking with those groups at promise, both with data and data that we have here internally, but also by sending some of those researchers to the college and having them talk with campus staff, leadership, and Promise students themselves. And the goal of that work is to understand both the success of Promise students and the challenges that might help explain why still nearly half of those Promise students are dropping out. And so we're eager to see the results of that work. Already from that work, we've learned a lot about the implementation of Promise and how system policies and campus practices can be improved. In addition to that, we're thinking a lot about how our students engage with campuses and their experience at colleges. And so as part of that, we have partnered with the University of Tennessee's Post-Secondary Education Research Center to look at some of the survey data we have about our students. We ask our students a lot of questions each year, and we want to look at that data to try to better our understanding of how students actually feel about their college experiences and their attitudes towards higher education. Last but certainly not least is we are thinking more about how to expand our data science capacity, as Dr. Deaton mentioned. And what that means is just using new sources of information and new methodological techniques to try to better understand student outcomes. This work is part of a multi-state partnership through the University of Virginia's Nudge Lab. And as Dr. Deaton mentioned, we've been lucky enough, TBR, to receive external funding for this work from Lumina and the Overdeck Family Foundation. Another exciting aspect of this partnership in particular is that it's not just with academic researchers, but through this project, which is a multi-year effort, we will be able to learn from other states and systems who are doing similar work. And so our colleagues at the Virginia Community College System and the Indiana Commission for Higher Education are also part of this. And so we work with them a lot to try to better understand how we can promote student success. In this work, we've got two major projects that we're tackling right away. One is focused on the early implementation of statewide Tennessee Reconnect. And we're also thinking about what we can learn about the large population of Tennesseans who have some college experience but no degree. These potential students who could benefit from Tennessee Reconnect and other adult initiatives. I would be remiss here if I did not also point out that in addition to these external partnerships, we work really closely with in-state partners, including THEC, the Department of Education, and our own outstanding campus institutional research offices, without whom none of this work would be possible. But Tennessee Reconnect has been our focus in a lot of this work so far, and so I wanted to quickly wrap up today by giving you an update about what Tennessee Reconnect looked like at community colleges in the first semester of that statewide program. And some of this we reported back in September when we had some preliminary numbers, but now we have final fall 18 enrollment numbers, and we're happy to report that in the first semester of Tennessee Reconnect, we saw something really remarkable, which is the first increase in adult enrollment at community colleges in nearly a decade. So in fall 2018, over 24,600 adult students enrolled at TBR community colleges, which is an 18% increase over fall of 2017. But when we think about those adult students who enrolled in fall of 18, we recognize that they were entering college from a lot of different directions. Some of them had prior experience in higher education and some of them did not. So as we talk about Reconnect and adult student enrollment generally today, we'll divide these students up into three broad categories. Of those over 24,600 adult students, which is here defined just as a student who is 25 years or older, of those students, about half, 52%, were continuing students. These were students who were enrolled the prior term, either the spring or summer of 2018, and who continued to enroll in fall of 18. But the other half were students who were either new to college or returning to college. So 38% are what we are calling reconnecting students. It's important here to note this is distinct from the people who participated in the Tennessee Reconnect Scholarship Program. These reconnecting students were just any adult student who returned to college after some time away. And then another 10% were first-time freshmen. These were students who were entering college in fall 18 for the very first time as an adult student. And as I said, in fall of 18, we saw the first increase in adult enrollment since the Great Recession. So if we look at some trends in adult enrollment over time, and again, this is just any adult student enrolled at a community college, if we look at those trends over time, we see something really interesting. If you look at the left-hand side of this figure, we know that adult enrollment at community colleges peaked in 2010, 2011, at the height of the Great Recession. But since then, adult enrollment in all three categories of adult student types had declined. The number of students who were adults and who were already enrolled and continuing to enroll, represented here by that top gray line, that had been declining rapidly. The other two categories, those who were returning to college or entering college for the first time, had also been kind of flat or decreasing. And those numbers were right in line with unemployment numbers. As the job market was positive, adult students were less likely to enroll. And that trend was continuing until fall of 18. In fall 18, that trend was reversed for all three categories of adult students. If we zoom in just on those most recent years, you can really see the effect of Tennessee Reconnect in our state. The number of first-time freshman adults, so people going to college as an adult for the very first time, that number nearly doubled between fall of 17 and fall of 18. And then the number of those students who were returning to college after some time away, those reconnecting students, that number increased by nearly 3,000 students. So those are the students that we really see coming back as a result of Reconnect, and we think that's a really positive sign. But not all of these adult students applied for or were eligible for the Tennessee Reconnect Scholarship Program. And that's the last bit that we'll turn to next. Of these nearly 25,000 adult students, 14,970 of them were Reconnect applicants who enrolled in fall of 2018, so nearly 15,000. Those students were predominantly female and white. Most of them were in their late 20s and early 30s. And of those nearly 15,000 students, we can again divide them into those same three categories that we used for adult students generally: first-time freshmen, those who were already enrolled, and those who were coming back. About 16% of them were brand new to college. About 40% were continuing students. But the really interesting thing to me is that 44% who were reconnecting. So these are Reconnect applicants who enrolled in the fall and were returning to college after some time away. And so if you think about that 44%, what are their needs and how can we serve them? These are people who at one point were students and dropped out, and now they're back. And so one thing that we have to think about is how long were they out? Were they out for a year, 5 years, 10 years? Because that might affect how we serve them. What we've seen is of those who were returning Reconnect students who had been out for some period of time, about a third had been enrolled and left within the last 2 years. Another third had been out for between 2 and 6 years, and then 37% were enrolled 6 or more years ago. And so one thing we're thinking a lot about in collaboration with others here at TBR and with colleges is how do these different enrollment histories affect student success, and how might we need to serve students in each of these categories differently based on their academic history. Another thing we've thought a lot about is the amazing work that our colleges are doing to make their campuses ready for adult students. In response to Reconnect, each of the colleges got kind of creative in many cases with student-centered scheduling and with course delivery options that fit with the work commitments and family commitments of adult students. And so in the fall 18 semester, with this influx of adult students, we saw a significant increase in the number of courses taken online. In fact, and this is my favorite part of this, of those nearly 15,000 Reconnect students in the fall, 1 out of every 5 took all of their classes online. And so we have to think about how can we promote student success in that online learning environment, and how does that help us reach students in those economically distressed counties or in rural areas where students may be distant from a TBR facility. Speaking of student success, one thing we've also thought a lot about is how students performed in fall of 18. It wasn't just that Reconnect brought new students to community colleges, although we see that it did. Reconnect also required that adult students take at least 6 credit hours in order to be eligible for the program. And so we saw an expected increase in the number of credit hours as well. So more students taking more credit hours. Their performance in those courses is roughly consistent with adults in the past. So when we look at things like grades, GPA, just academic success, it's relatively consistent. But because there are more students now and they're succeeding at those consistently high levels, it translates to more students succeeding. Based on this, what's next? Well, we're thinking more about the academic history of these students and how their prior enrollment history can affect their success. We're thinking a lot about how online courses in particular can help expand access for adult students. And we're thinking about connections to the workforce for adult students as well. So with all of that said, I think Dr. Deaton and I would be happy to answer any other questions that you have about the research you've seen this morning.
Yes, thank you. Since I'd been a little negative before, I just want to say that I really do appreciate the work that Dr. Deaton and his staff is doing. I've never seen a researcher that had such a pleasant and effervescent personality too. I mean, you're getting really excited about these numbers. That's great. But I do think this is the richest part of what we do in terms of looking at what's happening. And I've always said that TBR should have the best research, the best data of any of the any of the entities around, and that we do need to be saying, okay, now that we have these numbers, what do we do with them? And I think that's exactly what the staff is doing. I really do appreciate that, and I think that over time, that is going to really make a difference. And so it's really been impressive and delightful to see how our research capacity has been enlarged, increased, and really enriched in terms of how we're looking at the data. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, and just as a follow-up to what Regent Prescott said, and Chancellor, you may want to chime in here too, I do think this next steps component, and I was glad to hear, that our institutions are connected to you guys in all of this too. Is there a point at which timelines and idea implementation, kind of falls in with this? And if so, where are we in that planning process?
I think probably one of the best people to answer that is Dr. Heidi Lemming, because she takes this data and works with our faculty and staff on a regular basis on our high impact practices. And what they're doing is using all of this data to reflect what is happening on the campuses. Our campuses all are actively engaged every day in trying to make sure that they are looking at the data. And Heidi, if you would like to address that just a little bit more depth, I don't want to put you on the spot, but she's got the deep well knowledge on this.
Yeah, we are regularly looking at what our campuses need in terms of professional development, particularly for faculty. And so when we take the data and we know where the gaps might be, why students aren't moving through as successfully as we'd like, then we try to look at those pedagogical approaches that might help those students, but also wrap around support services. So, sometimes it's not just what's in the classroom, right? It's the other supports that they might need. And so we're constantly reevaluating that with our campuses to identify the next direction for training.
Good.
And I think one of the other aspects that we've started doing is what are we doing as a system that prevent students from being successful? And so those are the questions that we ask. Those are the questions the campuses are asking. What are we doing that are keeping students out rather than we're just hearing you all come? And so that's the conversations. Achieving the dream, again, back to that, they drive those conversations with each of our campuses, and in the campus level plan that each of them have written, those are the answers that they're searching for. So it all ties together. Anything else? Does that conclude your presentation as well, Dr. Deaton? So well done. Thank you. That was a good discussion. We will next receive an economic and community development update from Vice Chancellor Perrier. You know, and let me make one more quick comment is, and I think you saw it reflected in Regent Prescott's comments. I think what we just heard, that kind of stuff, we probably can't get enough of as a board, right? So that's just extreme. And you and I have had this conversation recently too, and Regent Apple and I have. So I think the more of that, the better, frankly, to kind of keep us on our toes too. So my apologies, please.
That is fine. Thank you, Regent Reynolds, and good morning to all of you. The Economic and Community Development Department has 2 agenda items today. They are both informational items only. And if I push the right button, it will magically go. Okay. The first item is an update on the Tennessee Trained Workforce Conference and our projects that we have going on. The Tennessee Trained Workforce Conference is going to be April 17th and 18th at Nashville State Tech Community College. This is when the Tennessee Trained graduates are coming back to kind of continue networking and keeping the momentum going. We are very excited to say that we have 72 registrants as of Monday. Tomorrow is the last day to register, but we have 53 campuses that are coming, and we have 13 chambers and agency members that will also be participating. The conference itself will focus on apprenticeships, municipal partnerships, reentry programs, team building, and the Internet of Things, which I hope to be able to report to you next time on what just exactly the Internet of Things will be. But it is how all the smart factories and companies and things are working together. So we're very excited to be hosting the conference and appreciate Nashville State for letting us be there. Dr. Rebecca Lake, who is the Dean of Workforce and Economic Development at Harper College in Illinois, will be our keynote speaker, and she is bringing with us lots of information on how campuses can work to develop registered apprenticeships with the Department of Labor. So we're looking forward to that conference. Also at that particular conference, we're going to be rolling out the Tennessee Trained Workforce Solutions, and I mentioned a little bit in December about online workforce development, and this is taking kind of a new look at how to work for business and industry and individuals to upscale their skills to be able to be promoted, maybe enter a different field, learn different items that will help them on their job. And so we're excited that we're going to roll it out. We do have some of the community colleges and TCATs that we're working with to get their ideas on some things. A couple of the projects that we have working right now, one is with the VA and looking at quality programs. And again, these will all be online. They will be subject matter expert led. And it's kind of a new concept, but we're looking forward to it. And I really thought I'd be able to report that we had the VA contract, but unfortunately, as you know, earlier this year we had a government shutdown, and that has sort of pushed everything back a little bit. So we are still excited about the possibilities. We're also working with ASCM in matching their certified manufacturing certifications with some online training for them. The project that I'm most excited about in this particular area is working with the Tennessee Concrete Association. And they came to us because they have the content, but they had no way to deliver it all across the state. And so The eCampus staff, led by Dr. Greg Cedric, his team is amazing. The talent that's on that second floor is pretty amazing. I'm surprised we even have electricity in here today because they just suck all the energy out of the building. They have developed a wonderful course that will be able to be used with these concrete professionals that will help upscale their skills and will take the drivers of the trucks and also give them the information they need to be promoted. And we're very excited about that. The proposal has gone out. Again, Greg and his team they have done a remarkable job with working with this. If this all goes well, and my fingers are crossed and I'm feeling pretty confident about it, this will not only stay in Tennessee, but has the potential to go to Kentucky and South Carolina and perhaps North Carolina, and maybe we may even go south a little bit to Alabama. So we're excited about that as we move forward. That concludes my first agenda item. Are there any questions about those two items? Okay, well then I will proceed with our project updates. We've got a couple of project updates just to let you know the latest that's happening. We have Launch Code, NHC Medication Aid Pilot, and the Airport Authority Partnership. Little background, Launch Code is the word that we have certainly gotten familiar with in our department. This is actually a national nonprofit organization with a mission to build skilled workforce in the cities it occupies by creating pathways and looking at careers in technology. They approached Launch Tennessee, which is a division of the Economic and Community Development at the state, and contacted them and wanted to bring their program to Tennessee. We talk about partnerships, and this is a great example. The partnership ECD contacted TBR to see how we could work together. We contacted several of the community colleges to see how we could work together. Launch Coast selected Southwest to work with them, and so we have just started working on a pilot there. So in November, we started working there with Southwest, and compliments to Southwest. They have just done a tremendous job in helping us launch this initiative. They started it in this early January. They had 894 applications for students, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't say students. I guess I just community folks, because they're not enrolled in Southwest. They're just people who want to learn about coding. And so they applied 894. We were able to take 161. And some of you are sitting there thinking, Regent Hatch, why didn't you take more than that? That's because the auditorium only held 200. So we got pretty close. But we're very excited. This is a 20-week program course. It's all on computer coding. It's free and part-time class so that students can perhaps be working but coming at night to maybe re-enter another profession that they'd like to go into and have job expertise. We are also working with Southwest, and they are trying to do the articulation from this coursework into their computer science program. So we are excited about that. Our next one is with the National Health Corporation. They came to the ECD department and said, we desperately need a medication aid pilot program. The Board of Nursing in Tennessee passed the requirements that to become a certified medication aid, you had to have training and you had to pass a certification test. But what they didn't do was develop a course. And so we've got it on the books to do, but we didn't have a course. And so NHC came and asked us if we could help. So our department's working with TCAP Murfreesboro right now and with NHC to develop the course. The course has been developed. It has been sent to the Board of Nursing, and we hope to have positive results back. They meet in May to talk about the course and review it. And if so, we hope to be piloting in the 1st of June with NHC. And then we will take that statewide to all of the campuses. And NHC, as all of you know, they truly go from Memphis to Mountain City. So we've got a lot of good opportunities there. Next is the Nashville Airport Authority pilot, and we are working with this group. They wanted us to help develop educational pathways for 350 employees to take employees that come with just a high school education and help map out the education that they will need to progress within the company. So we're working on that and also helping them to develop some work-based learning partnerships with local colleges as well. So we hope to have that up and rolling. We have to have that done by the end of June, so maybe by September we can have some good solid information for you. And another project to certainly update you on, and Dr. Deaton mentioned it earlier, is of course the technical warranty program that we have. We did award 1,376 awards in December, which is quite high considering those students just started in December, but we had several campuses that said, we're not waiting, we're going ahead and award those warranties immediately. And so that's why we have 1,376. 218 of the warranties were from the TCATs, 1,158 were from the community colleges. And again, we do have 0 claims right now, so we're pretty excited. The next session is I just wanted to talk with you about what's right with the workforce in Tennessee. We hear about the low unemployment rate. We hear every company's looking for people. But we just wanted to share some things that our campuses are doing, and they're doing very well every single day to help meet the need of our workforce. And certainly I started with the quote from the governor that he recognizes that a skilled workforce is necessary for a business to thrive and grow. And as the College System of Tennessee, we want to be able to deliver that workforce and help them. So we're going to start with Oshkosh, which is our friend in Jefferson City. And we've talked about them a lot, but I did want to share with you that the 2 TCATs that are working on that are Morristown and Knoxville, specifically in Anderson County. We have trained 66 people through what Oshkosh is calling the 96-hour class. And that's where people have some welding experience and they truly learn the Oshkosh way to weld. And we have had 66 students. We have completed, 64 students have completed and passed. That's 96% completion rate in the completion. What's more important is I talked with Christy Wilson just Friday night about how things were going and what was, what her impressions were, if she needed anything else from our campuses. She was very proud to say that 90%, if not higher, she didn't have the number in front of her, from our programs are passing their last test that they have to take before they're employed. And I think that's compliments to some very good instructors that are working very hard. That's for students who are going through our program. Students who just walk in the door and try to take this test, the success rate is much, 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 much lower. She would not confirm exactly what that is, except much, 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 much lower. So I think we have a lot to be proud of. And I would like to do a special recognition and thank you to Chris Edmondson, who just received an award last night, and rightfully so, for the outstanding TCAT staff member. He has worked tirelessly on this program and has just done a wonderful job at both campuses helping to coordinate. The 3 instructors that are working with this program, I don't think are probably live streaming the board meeting, no offense to any of us in this room, but I do want to give a shout out to Eddie Copeland, Cody Molly, and Daniel Cornett, because they have done a wonderful job. And of my 30-minute conversation with Christy on Friday, she talked 25 minutes about the quality of our teachers and how wonderful they are to work with. So wanted to share that. I will also share with you their head HR person sent me a quote, and he said, having a capable technical college partner to help Oshkosh develop critical manufacturing skills was an important factor in our decision to start up a new manufacturing plant in Tennessee. TCAT has been an outstanding partner for Oshkosh, but being willing to adapt training programs to meet our specific requirements, we are off to a successful start due in part to our partnerships with our colleges. and that was from the head of HR in Oshkosh. Next one I want to highlight is with Tyson. We all know that Tyson's coming to West Tennessee. We know that TCAT Jackson, we know that Jackson State are working tirelessly to make sure they have 1,500 employees by their date. And we are working with Vanessa with Tyson, and this was her quote. "We are amazed with the response from our local community and technical colleges to help us fill the technical needs that we have in West Tennessee. Their willingness to understand our skill set and plant processes so they can create training programs feels like we truly have a new partner in our backyard," which I think is pretty nice to have. And one last one is for another company, the Craig Company, that's opening in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. They also, actually, I was at an event in Pulaski for Mike Whitehead, and the Chamber Commerce president talked to me, and this was his quote. "TCAT Pulaski has played an integral role in the successful recruitment of the U.S. headquarters of the Canada-based Craig Manufacturing in 2018. For nearly 2 years prior to their announcement, the company evaluated 5 states with heavy emphasis on workforce development. At the groundbreaking ceremony and ever since, Craig's management team has consistently praised the TCAT's engagement and capabilities by stating the accessibility of the TCAT facilities and training programs in and around Lawrenceburg helped to seal the deal." I wanted to share those simply because we hear so much about workforce and so much about the need. And please help us all spread the word of what our campuses are doing. The community colleges, the technical colleges are working as hard as they can, and they have a wonderful workforce staff that's working daily to make sure that we're being creative, we're being nimble, and we're being on task on what qualities and skills that they need their workers to have. And they do a wonderful job. And not once have I called an institution in these 2 years has one said, "Carol, we don't want to do this. We're too busy." They are helping us to make these success stories possible. And I'm very happy to be working with them. And the last slide is just so some things that are kind of a teaser slide to talk about some things that are coming up in the future. We're going to have a workforce bulletin that we'll be sending out. We're also going to start the Tennessee Trained Cohort 3 in late summer. And then we're going to try something new with some podcasts starting in the fall to have some folks come in and discuss different items and all of that to keep people informed about what our campuses are doing for workforce. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good question. Good presentation. Any questions or comments for Dr. Perrier? Regent Burdine?
Yes, Regent Reynolds and I attended a Blue Cross meeting where we heard a presentation about cybersecurity jobs. So glad to hear about the coding. I mean, that's going on actually in K through 12 efforts as well. But that presentation showed that there were well over 50,000 jobs available in cybersecurity, can't be filled, don't know how they're going to fill them. Is there anything we can do to?
Well, that is a great question. We've got several campuses that are working on that initiative. Mm-hmm. And President Smith and I just laughed, and President Jackson last night talking about ways to do some boot camps in those particular areas. And they have both promised me that we're going to start work on that and get some information. And they've done some things already, but we want to gear that up and make sure that we can offer those to people that maybe you want to change careers or just learn the different skills. But the need is so great with IT in the Nashville area specifically and across the state. So yes, sir, we are working on that.
Good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A good question. Thank you for asking. Anybody else? Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, what a perfect segue as we move into our action items with Carol closing on the mention of Mike Whitehead and Craig coming into Lawrence County for their U.S. headquarters. I will now call on the Chancellor so that we might, in fact, approve a recommendation for a new president at the Pulaski TCAT.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the members of the search committee for their time and commitment while serving on the search for our TCAT Pulaski president. Chair of our search was Regent Joey Hatch, Vice Chair Emily Reynolds, Dr. Janet Smith, representative of the TCAT College faculty and staffs and students. And also, we had a large contingency of community and industry leaders on the search. I'd also like to thank Dr. Lynn Goodman for serving as the interim president during her time there, and also to Dr. Kira Poirier, who was able to come in and pick up when Lynn was no longer able to be at the campus. Madam Chair, after careful review and consideration, I am pleased to recommend to you Mr. Mike Whitehead as the next president of Tennessee College of Applied Technology, Pulaski. Mr. Whitehead is currently the vice president at TCAT Pulaski. He holds a Master's of Education from Tennessee State University and a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from Tennessee Tech University. He also holds a professional teacher certification in mathematics for grades 7 through 12. I feel that Mr. Whitehead is by far the best choice going forward for TCAT Pulaski and the success of its students. He comes highly recommended and brings a wealth of experience in the area of workforce development that will help the campus grow and meet the needs of the region. If adopted, Mr. Whitehead will begin on April 1st with standard TCAT presidential allowances and state of Tennessee employee benefits.
Very good. Thank you for the recommendation, Chancellor. Regent Hatch, you did a great job chairing. It was a very convivial committee, so it was a good group of folks.
Well, I've got a couple of comments. This was another internal search led by Dr. Goodman and Carol Tomlinson, and they do an incredible job. I do remember telling the Chancellor last summer, right before I retired, that if she needed my help on any future searches, that I had the time, so she's taken me up on that. That was number 6. And they're really great processes. So we had 31 applicants, which is a trend in most of the openings in the state of Tennessee. People come from all over the state and all over the country. Mr. Whitehead was one of 2 finalists. We posted the position in November. We had our first meeting in January. And I got to say, as a Middle Tennessee native, that was my first trip to Pulaski, and it's a wonderful little town. And you can tell that the TCAT down there is really providing a lot of growth and momentum for that community. We had our first meeting. We probably had 3 or 4 on campus. We selected the candidates to interview in late January. We had 5 that we interviewed. We had 2 finalists that were on the campus in early March. I do want to say that was one of the most engaged and invested groups on the search committee from the community and the school that I've ever seen. And they stayed engaged. They had great questions. They were really keen on the process and wanted to be a part of it, so that was really neat. And I'll just close by saying it was an honor and privilege to serve, and I'm ready for my next assignment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
2
right.
pens,
That
that's
falls
right.
in the be careful what you wish for department, right? But I know you're ready at any time. Regent Hatch, are you offering your recommendation in the form of a motion?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Thank you, sir. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Regent Prescott. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, this simply requires a voice vote. All in favor of extending the offer to Mike Whitehead to head our TCAT at Pulaski, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and I understand that President Whitehead is here with us this morning. Mike, come on up. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So thank you. Thank you for offering yourself to us as a candidate.
Well,
Aw.
it's done. First, Vice Chair Reynolds, Chancellor Tidings, and board members, thank you so much for putting your trust and your confidence in me. Almost 15 years ago, a door was opened, or a door opened for me to step into the world of education. I loved being a secondary educator, loved making a difference in the lives of my students each and every day. And then 4 short years ago, had the opportunity to walk into another door and come into the post-secondary side. And while I missed that daily interaction with students, I still had an opportunity to make a difference in the lives of our students, just in a different in a different way, both still with secondary students and post-secondary. And so now another door is opening. Look forward to continuing to make a difference in the lives of our students, their families, and our communities. So it's been a real pleasure these last 4 years, and I'm looking forward to what's ahead. It's been an incredible 3 days. This is icing on the cake. So I appreciate this very much. Fellow presidents, I've enjoyed spending time with you this week, getting to know you. Your kind words, encouraging words have been very appreciated. Look forward to learning from all of you and working with you as well. So thank you all very much. And I would be remiss as well. I want to personally thank Dr. Lynn Goodman and Dr. Carol Pereira for coming down to Pulaski and supporting us during the search process. They were absolutely phenomenal. And I learned a lot from both of them in that short time. So thank you all.
Very nice. Thank you. Well, your care for your students and for your community definitely showed throughout this process. So we are honored to have you officially on board. Thank you. And I have a feeling Joey won't be a stranger much longer to Pulaski either. So it is a great community. We will now call on Regent Burdine. We have some minutes to approve from the Finance Committee's most recent meeting on March 12th.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The 12 March special call meeting was the culmination of approximately 2.5 months of review by board staff and members of the Finance and Business Operations Committee regarding fee requests submitted by institutions. The process began in January when staff received 15 non-mandatory fee requests from 6 institutions and 1 request to eliminate 1 non-mandatory fee dependent upon the approval of another. Committee members were provided information on all requests received, and a telephonic committee meeting was held on 5 February to discuss those proposed fees. On 12 March, staff presented its recommendations to the committee. After discussion, the committee acted unanimously to adopt the staff recommendations. I would note that other regents who are not members of this committee also participated in our meetings. Before you for approval today is the report of the 12 March 2019 special called meeting of the Business and Finance Committee that includes non-mandatory fee requests, which would become effective fall 2019. Representing the chairman of the Finance and Business Operations Committee, I move for approval of the report of the 12 March 2019 meeting.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion from the committee and need a second, please. Second. Thank you, Regent Hatch. Any discussion? I'll just add that once again, this was a thorough process with thanks to the finance team and the members of the committee. If there's no further discussion, we have a motion and a second, and since this does involve our fiduciary responsibilities, I will call on Sandra for a roll call vote of approval.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regent Apple?
Aye.
Regent Burdine?
Aye.
Regent Duckett?
Aye.
Thank you. Regent Hatch?
Aye.
Regent Prescott?
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds?
Aye.
Regent Roman?
Aye.
Commissioner Schwinn? Regent Simmons?
Aye.
Regent Varlin? Regent White?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Regent Duckett, for leading us through as chairman of the committee. We missed you today.
Well, thank you again. I apologize for not being able to physically be there.
We understand. Just glad you could join us. Vice Chancellor Schulte, we have some program implementations at our TCATs. Excuse me.
You do. Uh-oh.
Well, in keeping with the theme, Madam Vice Chair, Chancellor, members of the board, I'm very happy to present to you for your approval 17 proposed programs at our community, at our Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology. One program at TCAT Chattanooga, Barber barbering instructor training, a program at TCAT Crossville in production and logistics technology, a program at TCAT Crump located at the Clifton Instructional Service Center in Health Information Technology. This is an evening program. 5 programs are proposed by TCAT Livingston, and Advanced Manufacturing Education Program at the center at Cookville. A dual enrollment program with Cookville High School in Advanced Manufacturing Education. Another dual enrollment program with White County High School in Advanced Manufacturing Education. A program in HVAC and refrigeration at their Jackson County Instructional Service Center. And another dual enrollment program, this in welding technology at Cookville High School. At TCAT McMinnville, a program in industrial maintenance, general evening program in the VM manufacturing site. One program with TCAT Murfreesboro. This is a dual enrollment program at Oakland High School in Rutherford County. 5 proposed programs from Oneida Huntsville. This a dual enrollment program in building construction technology with the Alvin C. York Agriculture Institute. Another dual enrollment program in building construction technology with Scott County High School. Another building construction technology program, but this with the Morgan County Regional Correctional Complex. And a welding technology evening program at the Oneida Huntsville campus. And welding technology also at the Morgan County Correctional Complex. For TCAT Paris, an information technology systems management program. And for Ripley High School, a dual enrollment program in manufacturing technology. These are the 17 proposals for which you have complete proposals in your material. There have also been 7 academic actions that were approved by the Office of Academic Affairs. So, Madam Chair, I ask for a motion for approval with any discussion and questions?
Any questions? There obviously a lot of creative thought and good work going into all of these proposals, so thank you to the team.
They're excellent work, and I want to also recognize our academic affairs staff member, Dr. Tashaka Hollins, who coordinates this for us, and for all the TCAT presidents and their staffs who are using our digital architecture now, called Curriculog, to submit these programs. And Dr. Hollins could not be with us today because she's actually at a national. She is? She's back. She flew in. She just got here. So I want to just recognize Tashaka being here and all of her work with the programs. And I think it's important to also recognize that as you go through this list, you'll see that the outreach to our high schools, our partnerships in dual enrollment are becoming more and more dynamic. This is a trend throughout all of the TCATs, and we're very excited about the Governor's Give Act and how those might help us encourage more of these partnerships. and also our outreach by our TCATs to correctional facilities and implementing programs in those sites. So very exciting work.
Well said. Any other thoughts, questions? We need a motion to approve. Thank you, Regent Prescott. A second. Thank you, Regent White. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of approving the new programs at our TCATs, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Schulte.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good work, Tanaka. She didn't hear me. Thank you. Yeah. Russ, you're back up.
Vice Chair Reynolds, the Complete College Tennessee Act of 2010 called for the creation of institutional mission profiles. This was reiterated in the Focus Act of 2016. These are distinct from mission statements used for accreditation. These are profiles meant to guide the Commission as it does things such as the outcomes-based funding formula and other policy initiatives at the Commission, just getting a sense of what each campus looks like and what its overall mission is. Board action is required for these. They go to the Commission for approval annually. What we have done is engage each campus president about their former profile, ask for any revisions or any updates, using data where appropriate. The materials that are in your packet reflect their submissions along with our very minor edits for content, and we recommend them for approval to you. And happy to answer questions about them.
Can I just ask one question? And I think I may ask this every year, which means I never remember the answer, so I apologize in advance.
Okay.
But each of these is different. Some
Yes.
have graduation rates.
Yes.
Some have sports activities. Some have. Do we ever give guidance on a formula so everything's looking a little more similar?
Standard. No, directly. We give them lots of latitude to sort of create and present themselves as they wish. I think in the future we will probably put a little more structure around that, so there is some consistency across the 13. To be honest, too, these are quite consequential for universities that have Carnegie classification aspirations, which impact the funding formula quite a bit. The THEC staff primarily uses these to just make sure everything is still humming along as it should. The structure of these could be better, and again, data is now more injected into them. That is something we can do in the future, yes.
Just something to think about.
Yes.
Any other questions? We need a motion to approve these institution mission profiles. Thank you very much, Regent Apple. A second. Thank you, Regent Varlin. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Russ. Mary, and I think President Faulkner is still here too, right, in case we have questions. This is, and everybody has the background on this, but we'll have Mary lead us through. This is a request for approval. It is an unusual one to come before us, but involving volunteer stay.
Okay, today I'm here to ask you to approve our seeking the Attorney General's assistance in getting a judicial order removing some restrictions on the use of land that was inherited by Volunteer State Community College. Back a number of years ago, Volunteer State was the residuary beneficiary in a will, and because Vol State was the sole beneficiary, the family members of the decedent contested the will, and in 2011 an agreed order resolving that will contest was entered, and Vol State took some of, but not all of the property that would have passed under the will, and the order provided that the will was valid, and then Vol State took under the will. The will contained a restriction on the use of the real property, limiting its use to conservation, environmental technology with options in forestry, wildlife management, parks, recreation, and farming. And essentially the property is farmland in Sumner County. And over the years, they've experimented with trying to use the property in different ways, and the last attempt was to use it for a rugby pitch, I believe, Dr. Faulkner, and the community was adamantly opposed to that because it's on a narrow two-lane road that's rural, and the community didn't want the traffic that a rugby field would have, and it got a lot of publicity here in the Nashville and Gallatin area. So that fell through. The family members who took land from that decedent under the agreed order didn't take it with the restrictions because they didn't take under the will, they took under the order. And they have since sold their property and it's been developed. And so we've had Vol State has had the property appraised, and certainly it appraises at a much higher value if the restrictions are removed from the property. And in order to do that, we have to go to court and get the restrictions removed. And we're here today, I'm here today to recommend that the board approve our going forward to take legal action to get those restrictions removed.
President Faulkner, anything you'd like to add on this request?
I think General Counsel Moody has encapsulated the material and where we stand on this. I would add that the other people that were involved in the lawsuit were actually not family members. They were another couple that had become involved in the life of the person that left it to us. The family members actually supported the property coming to Vol State, but we have just not been able to find a good way to use that property, and the best and highest use would be if we could reap some benefit from the sale of it.
If the board approves the request, then next steps are you go back to the Attorney General's office?
Yes, well, we go to the attorney, and we've already had preliminary discussions with them, and they're willing to undertake this for us. And they'll go to court to get the restrictions removed. Once the restrictions are removed, then the university is, the college is free to explore selling the property, but any sale of the property would come back to the board and has to go to the State Building Commission for approval. So we have the authority to sell our property, but subject to your approval and the approval of the Building Commission. But the proceeds will go back to Volunteer State.
Okay. It's a little complicated process. Any questions, or do we have any precedent for ever having done this before?
I don't know about for having will conditions removed. I kind of think we might have, but nothing recent enough for me to know about it. We have in my tenure here refused a bequest of property because it was not worth what it would have taken to sustain the property. It was some literal swampland in Florida that somebody tried to leave us and at one of our institutions, and we kindly rejected that gift. So you don't always want what people want to give you. So.
Any other questions? And I know you had the chance to read all this material beforehand. If not, we need a motion to approve this request to seek a judicial order. Regent Barlin, thank you. A second? Thank you, Regent Prescott. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Well, now we move into a little bit of a bittersweet time in our meeting. And with that, I will ask Stephen Milligan, there he is, to come forward. We have a building naming request. Oh, no, you go first. But Stephen, come on up. We have a building naming request at the TCAT Crump.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
It is my pleasure to bring this building naming request before you today in celebration and appreciation for Mr. James King's 35 years of dedicated service to the Tennessee Board of Regents. The naming committee at TCAT Crump proposes naming the TCAT Crump Administration Building the James D. King Administration Building. In 1983, Mr. King began his Board of Regents career as a director of TCAT Whiteville. He became the director at TCAT Crump in 1986 and served in this role until 1997. During his time at TCAT Crump, James increased full-time enrollment by 50%, adding 7,500 square feet of additional classroom space, started 4 new programs, and was one of the first TCATs to develop a web page on the internet and an online catalog. He was also instrumental in developing TCAT Crump's partnership with the University of Memphis and Jackson State Community College, which increased program offerings in the Hardin and McNairy County areas. James became the Vice Chancellor for Technical Colleges of Applied Technology in 1999, and as Vice Chancellor, he made a significant impact in advancing career and technical education in Tennessee. He also agreed to serve as our interim president at Northeast State Community College for over a year. James did an outstanding job there, and he truly did change the face of technical education in the state of Tennessee. He has a reputation that is nationwide, and we cannot honor him enough. And it is my honor today to recommend to you that we name TCAT Crump Administration Building the James D. King Administration Building.
Thank you, Chancellor. President Milligan.
There's not much more to add to that, except it was my privilege to bring the building naming request forward. And there's some presidents that followed me at Crump, President Smith, President Sisk, and President Summers, and I think they could all say with me that Mr. King's presence is well felt at Crump, and the changes he made and the programs he implemented and the facility that he helped develop there. It's a great, well, the best in the state, of course, a great campus, and we're very proud of it, and it was an honor to bring the naming request forward.
Thank you for taking the initiative to do so. Thank you very much. Now, James, I know you like to talk, but it's not your turn just yet. And I see you're wearing a turtleneck today and not a tie, so retirement is suiting you well, my friend. Give us an opportunity to honor you in one more way, and we will take up both of these items in a vote. We have before us a resolution of appreciation for our Executive Vice Chancellor, James King, and I would like to call on Regent Farland to read the resolution, please.
Thank you, with
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Whereas James D. King is a native of Madison County, Tennessee, and graduated with a bachelor's degree in vocational agriculture education and a master's degree in administration and supervision from the University of Memphis. And whereas during his tenure with the system, Mr. King was appointed to serve as interim president for Northeast State Community College from July 2017 to January 2019, was appointed Executive Vice Chancellor on April 27, 2017, also serving as Interim Vice Chancellor of Student Success, and served as Vice Chancellor for the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology from August 1999 to May 2017. And whereas during his tenure as interim president of Northeast State Community College, Mr. King's stalwart personality and leadership skills helped to stabilize the college's finances by realigning operations to take the college from a $5 million deficit to a $5 million surplus in only 18 months. He helped establish Northeast State's post-secondary Skills USA chapter that produced 4 national championships in 1 year. He helped establish an articulation agreement between Northeast State and TCAT Morristown to provide transfer opportunities for aviation technology students. Restarted construction and presided over ceremonial groundbreaking of $29.8 million, 114,475 square foot technical education complex, and entered into agreements with regional universities to help Northeast State students transfer to further their education at Milligan College, King University, and Tusculum University. And whereas having a sincere passion for technical education prior to becoming Vice Chancellor for the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, he served as Director of the Technology Center at Jackson from 1997 to 1999, Director of the Technology Center at Crump from 1986 to 1997, and Director of the Technology Center at Memphis from 1996 to 1997, and Assistant Director at the Technology Center at Whiteville from 1983 to 1986. And whereas Mr. King served in numerous leadership roles with Council on Occupational Education, American Technical Education Association, Skills USA, National Technical Honor Society, Federal Reserve Board of Atlanta, and the Tennessee Council on Career and Technical Education. Whereas he is an honorary lifetime member of Skills USA, received the Outstanding Service Award for the American Technical Education Award, and received the NC3 Founders Award. And whereas believing greatly in the success of students and the desire to applaud their achievements, he started important initiatives and programs, such as the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology Outstanding Student of the Year program, TTC Leadership Program, the Foundation for the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology, and the nation's largest post-secondary membership in Skills USA. And whereas being a sincere advocate for technical students, he was instrumental in bringing about legislations that was ultimately responsible for the Wildy-Nafee Technical Skills Grant, instrumental in the development and implementation of the statewide salary equity plan for the Tennessee Technology Centers, advocated for the name change Technology Centers to Technical Colleges, oversaw TCAP master plan development for 3 series of plans, presented $1 million annually in scholarships to secondary Skills USA winners, and was instrumental in the TCAT-Nissan partnership securing funding and oversight of the $35 million, 154,000 square foot state-of-the-art training facility in Smyrna, Tennessee, now known as the Bill Haslam Center. And whereas under the leadership of the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology garnered national recognition as a model for student success for outstanding completion and placement rates for the 27 colleges of applied technology. And whereas he is responsible for conducting 42 searches for Tennessee College of Applied Technology directors throughout his tenure as Vice Chancellor. And whereas Mr. King retired from the Tennessee Board of Regents on January 31st, 2019, and will be missed greatly by all who worked with him throughout his 36 years of service. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the members of the Tennessee Board of Regents wish to express sincere appreciation to Mr. James D. King for his loyal and dedicated service and to wish him all the best in retirement.
Regent Varlin, are you offering that as a motion
I want to make that motion.
coupled with the proposal to name the building, correct?
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you for that enthusiastic motion. May we have a unanimous second?
Yes.
Any discussion, any comments from members of the board?
Thank you, James. You have been a delight to work with and to know, and we appreciate everything from the board in terms of everything you have done, in the many hats you have worn, and the many wonderful stories you have told all of us. We will miss you.
Amen.
James, are you the longest serving employee in the history of TBR, I wonder? You are not, okay. Okay, okay, okay. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, thank you, Regent Duncan. There we go. So with that, well, all in favor, no, opposed? None. With that, let's congratulate
Yay.
James King and ask him to come to the podium.
James Dean, come on down.
Please come on up. This is an historic moment. Our friend is speechless.
James.
No, it has been a pleasure. You know, I will tell a quick story. I'm not going to leave without a story that the directors have heard. Most presidents haven't. Karen's one of the few people in the room that can actually remember when Lamar Alexander put the TCATs, or at that time State Vocational Schools, under the Board of Regents. And I was acting director at TCAT Whiteville, 26 years old, and I get this call from Jackson State saying, "We need you to come to a meeting." And I went, didn't have anything else to do. So I went there, and when I walked in the room, Karen, if you remember, Lamar made this tour all in one day pretty much to announce this, and somebody said, "Mr. King, your chair's on the stage." And my first question was, "No, it's not." I thought they were kidding, and it was. And the other 5 state area vocational school directors and the president of Jackson State, Dr. Walter Nelms, was on the stage. And Lamar came in off the side, and he started speaking. And I was so new, I didn't understand a single word he said for 15 minutes. He used words like Tennessee Board of Regents. I had never heard of a Tennessee Board of Regents. Lead institution. He had said all these things. And so I finally just quit paying attention and I was hoping I still had a job when he got through. And then I'm sitting there, the first chair, and when he got through, he said, "I'd like the administrators to make a comment." And I was the first chair. And one thing I've told all, people ask me, how have I survived so long? And I've survived this long by remembering the day after an election, I've never voted for a losing governor. So when this governor asked me what did I think, I said, "Governor, sounds like a good idea." And so remember that. You never vote for a losing governor day after an election if you're going to stay employed in the state of Tennessee. But it has been a pleasure. When I heard that proclamation, I must be 90 years old, but I'm really not. But I did start with the Board of Regents and Administration at 26 years old. And got the pleasure at 29 to go to Crump as the director. And it was one of my first reclamation projects. It was in a mess at that time, and I will say that. And so went through that process and had the pleasure of building a new facility, and was the first facility in the state that was named after Dr. Otis Floyd, because he passed away. Because Dr. Floyd's from McNairy County, in that area there. And but when you think about becoming a vocational agriculture teacher, I thought it's all I was ever going to do in 1978, and I got into administration at an early age. But it's been a good career. It's been a great career with the Tennessee Board of Regents, and it was truly the best thing that ever happened to the state area vocational school system when we went under the Board of Regents. And we fought hard to gain our spot, and I think that was my primary goal. And from the time I got there in '99 was to gain our spot within the Board of Regents and put us on a pedestal, and we did. And in a few things, when Bill Gates recognized the TCAT system as one of the 2 systems in the country doing it the right way, and he visited one of the TCAT campuses. He visited Nashville. And then, and I always remember the night I'm sitting in a hotel room in Covington, Tennessee, and I get an email that says, "White House, urgent, time sensitive." And first of all, I think it's a joke, so it's a crank. And then I recognized the name on the email, and it was a young lady that I had met. And when I called her, she said, "The president's going to be in Knoxville on January or something, Pellissippi, and he wants to know if you have time to meet with him." And you think, no, I got a haircut today. No, and to have a president of the United States say, "We need more people doing what you're doing," it's quite an honor. And this naming of this facility in Crump is quite an honor. Rates up there, and then getting that opportunity to expand my horizons and go to Northeast State. Thank you, Chancellor. It was a privilege. And Miles, I hope I made a difference up there in your eyes. And it's a great system. And I'm going to retire. The biggest question I've been asked, and I've had it asked nearly daily, is what am I going to do next? No one thinks I'm going to retire. And I don't know if I am or not officially yet. I'm retiring from the Board of Regents, but I'm available to help this system in any way possible. And I do love this system and my passion is the technical college system. I do know that Stephen has started a farm operations program. I do have a degree in agriculture. I can work part-time. So once again, thank you. I love this system.
Well, and the system loves you right back. What advice do you have for us going forward?
Just keep doing what you're doing. Treat people the right way. Just put the students first. I said that 2 things that have helped me be successful is I went to bed. The last question I asked myself every night before I go to bed while I was working is, what can I do tomorrow to make this system the best it can be? And I wake up and ask that same question in the morning. If you keep doing that, you're moving forward. But I'm proud of the fact that I've played some small role in improving the lives of Tennesseans and the communities in which they live. And that's what you do best.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We will miss that stalwart personality, as Regent Varlin read in the resolution, but we know you're not far, and you've just given us all a leading question, and that is, how do we wake up every morning and say, how do we move this system forward? So thank you for that challenge. It's a good one. With that, Chancellor. Oh, yes. Oh, Regent Duckett, I'm so sorry. Please.
Yeah, Ms. King.
Oh.
Yeah. It's Greg Duckett. I just want to know, I'm envious of you because of all the meetings that you have attended there. I don't believe I have ever seen you without a tie.
I don't have to wear one anymore.
Exactly. Do you have are you watching us too, Greg?
Yes, I have the webcast up.
Oh, very good. Okay, very good. And you're right about the tie. So, and did you notice the double-breasted jacket with the turtleneck? So, very fancy. Exactly, exactly. No, congratulations, James, and thank you. You leave an example for all of us to follow, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much. Thank you, Regent Duckett. And with that, I will call on Chancellor Tiding for any announcements, and I have about 3 or 4 as well, I think. We may overlap on some of these.
I do just have 2 that I would like to make. One thing that I was remiss in talking about is that yesterday, in addition to the SOAR event that we had going on, we also had TBR Day on the Hill. I'd like to thank Kristen and Chuck who coordinated all of that. We had all of our Skills USA representatives there, our student government leaders, as well as our president. So we were able to visit all 95 county representatives across the state. They knew that TBR was there yesterday, and it was mentioned in all of the meetings that were held yesterday on the Hill. So congratulations and thank you to all of you for putting that together. I'd also just like to bring to your note that on April 2nd at the Skills Tennessee dinner, the governor will be in attendance for that, so we will send out all of that information to the board members in case you would like to attend. We'd love for you to be there. He had planned, we were hoping to judge the welding competition, and last minute was unable to do so, but he does still plan to be at the dinner, so just to let you know about that.
That's great. No, that's very exciting, and we are grateful for his presence. That'll be fun. So to the board and to all of our presidents and other senior staff, the Chancellor's evaluation is in your inboxes in an email from April Preston. She has reported to me this morning out of the 64 so of those of us who received it, we're at about a 67% participation rate, which is terrific in and of itself. But if you haven't yet filled it out, that date closes Monday. So please make the time between now and close of business Monday to finish this important process. Second of all, Sanja informs me that our surveys, rather than the blue sheet on our table here, we're getting those by email.
Yes, I will send it out this time because I want to include the information on the SOAR, if there's anything that
Oh, that's great.
to improve on next year.
That's excellent.
I'll work with Kim.
Okay, and will we return them by email too then? Okay, all right, excellent. So watch for the evaluation. That's very important, especially with all the SOAR activities added onto it. That's smart. Third of all, remarkably enough, it is almost graduation season. So Sanja will be in touch with graduation dates at various institutions across the state if you would like to attend and bring greetings on behalf of the Board of Regents at any of those. And finally, lunch is outside as we depart. And feel free to take it with you as you go. It's boxed and ready for you to hit the road. And with that, after a terrific week, and we thank you all again, we will see you back on June 20 and 21. And thanks to President Faulkner, we will have the tremendous hospitality of Volunteer State Community College. If there are no objections or any other business to come before the board, we stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Crazy.